You're their mom. Soak up the extra snuggles and just be confident in the fact that you are supporting them instead of suppressing what's going on. And that's going to serve your whole family really, really well.
Hi, I'm Kayla Heater, follower of Jesus, wife and mother of 5 children, Christian childbirth educator and doula, and your host of the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, where we share God-centered birth stories, evidence-based birth education, and our pursuit of surrendering our birth plans to God. Let's get started. Happy November, everybody. Somehow it is November, and that has crept up so incredibly fast. I feel like I blinked and October came and went. We had so much going on in October. We had like 3 events at our house and then multiple things taking place out of the house, and it was so much, but so fun. But I think we tried to pack it all in because November is technically baby month, maybe, but maybe December, who knows? You never know when your baby's actually going to come. So anyways, somehow here we are in November. I hope you're having a lovely fall so far. I am really excited about today's episode. So it is a topical episode, so it's different than our usual birth story interview style. Still interviewing an amazing woman, Emily Ransom. She's been on the podcast twice now. So she shared her birth stories a while back, and then she is a certified homeopath. And so she came on and shared about homeopathy. She shared about how to use it in pregnancy and labor and postpartum, breastfeeding, all the things. And it was fantastic. And then her and I have been planning this episode for a while, and it kept getting delayed. And I think now it's actually the perfect time because we are heading in to, it's starting to get colder outside. People are already getting sick. And I actually, myself included, I got a little sick this past week. And I will say that I feel like had I not been on top of my holistic and homeopathic remedies, that I would have felt much worse and for much longer. I feel like I was only really sick for a few days, and I really tried to do a good job of like resting and taking care of myself and drinking lots of herbal teas and doing all the like tinctures and vitamins and taking good sick detox Epsom salt baths and using essential oils and homeopathics and all the things. And when you get some sort of sickness, it's not like this instant fix where like you immediately are recovered and you feel like a brand new person. But you know that had I been trying to like keep going about life as normal and eating sugar and drinking coffee, because those are things I cut out whenever I'm feeling sick, and like just up and down and doing all the things and eating normally and whatnot, I feel like I would have been worse and it would have dragged on so much longer. Like I have people in my life that I know who they'll catch a cold and it'll be like 3 weeks of them feeling terrible and them having a cough forever and all these things. Because I feel like that used to be me, definitely. Like growing up with the lifestyle we had and the knowledge or lack of knowledge that we had, it was like, here, take this Tylenol, or here, go to the doctor, or here, stay home from school and eat junk because it was the 90s and your parents still went to work. But anyways, I feel so glad that in the last few years, I've learned so much about how to really take care of my body and how to take care of myself and my children when I am sick, because that's one of the worst, or when they're sick too, because that's, to me, like the hardest part about parenting. And I think I might say this in this episode, is when my kids get sick and feeling like I can't instantly fix it. So that's what today's episode is all about. Emily and I are going to talk about what you can do as a parent, as a mother at home in order to help your babies feel better. So we know lots of you have, children in various ages, but because this is a, birth podcast primarily, we are going to talk about the illnesses that occur typically that can occur and are most common in the first year of your baby's life. So I say this in the episode. I'm going to say it one more time just so no one gets confused. Emily and I are not doctors, okay? So you can't take this as your medical advice or sue us for anything. And that's also in the outro, and I also say it again in the episode. Although Emily is a certified homeopath, so you can go to her and seek her for specific homeopathic needs. So you can absolutely do that. And her information is in the show notes. But okay, I think I've prepped you enough. Let's get into this week's episode. We spend a lot of time trying to have a healthy pregnancy and a smooth delivery and a successful postpartum. But what happens after all of that? When the fallen world that we live in lands on our doorstep and our baby wakes up at 3 a.m. with a fever or with croup or an ear infection, how do we handle it? What can we do at home to take care of our own without having to rush to the pediatrician or urgent care or the ER in the wee hours of the night? In today's episode, we'll be covering the common infant illnesses your baby is likely to face in their first year of life: fevers, ear infections, colds and respiratory viruses, pink eye, and tummy bugs. Find out what you can do holistically and homeopathically to care for your baby and your other children at home. You'll want to save this episode as a resource to reference time and time again and to share with your friends and family who also have small children at home. And everything we talk about in today's episode is listed in the show notes for your easy reference. Welcome to another episode of Surrendered Birth Stories. I am your host, Kayla Heater, and I have Emily Ransom back with me today. So excited about that. Emily, she shared her birth stories on episode 69, but then came back and actually introduced us to homeopathy in episode 77, and specifically how you can use it during, pregnancy and labor and postpartum breastfeeding, etc. So I'm excited to have Emily back with me today. I'm going to have her go ahead and introduce herself, and then we will get into the episode.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's so good to be back. These are always so fun. My name is Emily, and I have 5 kids. I homeschool. I am a homeopath. Wasn't always a homeopath. I kind of just was figuring this out for 6 or 7 years and then decided to go back to school for it. So the majority of the foundation of everything that I knew was just doing this for my family, talking to other mom friends about how to do it, and really just passionate about every mom being able to utilize this type of natural medicine for their families. And yeah, then it became kind of a new career path. So it was really cool how God did that, but really excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you back. And my husband, he might even edit this part out, but he always says, Emily is such an easy edit. She talks so well. I don't have to edit much at all. And I'm like, great, she's coming back on the show.
Well, my husband always listens and says, oh, you did really good with your ums. You didn't say so many times. I'm like, yeah, Chris probably took some of those out.
No, well, I think you do great.
Okay. Thank you.
So today we are here to talk about what to do when your baby gets sick, because they will. They will. We live in a fallen, broken world, and at some point they are going to get sick, even if it's not until they're a year old, as was my experience. I had my first. She did not go to daycare. I breastfed her, and she actually did not get sick until she was a year old. Happened to be the week I decided to wean her, which absolutely goes hand in hand, which we will talk about But more of the heart behind doing this episode is so that you as parents can feel empowered to take care of your children and help them through these sicknesses in your own home and not feel like you have to call the pediatrician, like you have to make an appointment and run to the doctor's office, especially when they wake up at 3 a.m. with a sickness and then you feel frozen because you don't know what to do. Instead of Googling and scaring yourself all night long, or instead of unnecessarily running them to the ER, we want to give you some advice. Emily has 5 kids. I have 5 kids as well. We've been doing this for a decent amount of time and have gone through the baby stage with 5 babies, so 10 between the 2 of us, and have learned a lot of things along the way. Several things that we're going to talk about today can be found in a couple of really handy books that I recommend just having as a resource. That way you don't have to get on the internet in the middle of the night and God forbid your internet ever goes out or your electricity ever goes out and you don't have access. It's good to have a solid copy. So the 2 books I use most often for quick references for babies when they're sick are the Nourishing Traditions book of baby and childcare. Here it is. I'm holding it up. It's a purple book. It's by Sally Fallon, same author of Nourishing Traditions, the cookbook, but it's a fantastic resource. She takes you through so many things and how to take care of your baby holistically. Then there's this other bigger book. It's called Smart Medicine for a Healthier Child. I love this book. I actually found mine at a thrift store for like $2.50, which is amazing.
I love finds like that. That's amazing.
Yes, it was a used, I guess it was a used bookstore, but they have a bunch of other things there too. But I love it because it is, and this says this in the title, a practical A to Z reference to natural and conventional treatments for infants and children. So it will go over like anything that your child could, experience. And it goes all through childhood. This isn't just for babies, so it's good to keep. But then it goes and lists out, okay, here's how it would be handled conventionally with conventional medicine. Okay, here's how you could handle it with nutrition and food. Here's how you could handle it with different herbs. Here's how you can handle it with homeopathy, which is what we're going to talk about today. So it's almost like a full reference guide and gives you all these different options and things that you could use depending on the route you want to take. So
Can I add on a couple books to that?
Yes, please do.
One that I love is How to Raise a Healthy Child in Spite of Your Doctor.
Yes.
And it's not homeopathy specific, but I love it because it's kind of like when to worry, when to not. Like this is something that's not that big of a deal, but your doctor's going to feel like they need to prescribe something versus like, this is a problem, go to the hospital. And I think that that's comforting to just know, okay, what's my worst case scenario here versus like, yeah, I can stay home and treat this on my own. And that one is actually free on Audible right now. Or I heard that it was. It's saying, I guess you have to pay for the membership still, but then the book is free. I don't know how that works. Did I say who it was by? It's by Robert Mendelsohn. And then the other one that's homeopathy specific is Homeopathy for Children and Infants by Dana Ullman. Super practical. Like you can just read about each homeopathic remedy, or you can flip to the part of the book that's about the concerns. And so you can just look up ear infection and then get remedies for that, or strep throat. And, here's some remedies. So it's, really good tool.
Awesome. And we will list all 4 of those books in the show notes. That way it's an easy click for you to find. But yeah, so before we jump in, before we totally dive into the specific illnesses and stuff that we're going to deal with today, I do want to say the disclaimer of this is not medical advice. We are not your doctors, care providers, whoever. Although Emily could be your homeopath because she is. But so this is just motherly wisdom gained over, the last decade or so. And through all of our research, which Emily and I are both big researchers, try to learn as much as we can and just experience. I will say, we're going to talk about fevers first. We obviously don't have time to talk about every single childhood illness and issue you would ever encounter, but we're going to hit the heavy hitters today, the ones that are most common and that you would most often see in a child's first year of life, which is kind of where a lot of you new parents are. I will say these two things. If your baby does have a really high fever, I'm talking like over 104, 105, and it's not coming down, you can't get it to come down, that would be a reason to take them in. Or if your baby is completely limp, unresponsive, you can't get them to wake up for anything, etc. Because people question, what does lethargic mean? But like, yes, like
You'll know, like,
you'll know, like you cannot get them to move. That would be a reason to take them in. And some things that I just recommend having on hand would be like a pulse ox that you can test your own child's oxygen and see if their oxygen's actually low or not. I can list one of those in the show notes too, the one that we have and use. It helps me determine, when my baby has a cold or something, how well are they actually breathing? How much oxygen are they actually getting? Do I actually need to take them in, or are they okay? So things like that, just to kind of know and kind of have in the back of your head as we are talking about how to handle all of these things at home.
well, this might be edited out because I don't know how much you touch on this subject, but there's a lot of fear around fevers and especially like febrile seizures. And I always say this when I'm talking to moms about fevers, that a febrile seizure following a vaccination is not a harmless febrile seizure. That's a vaccine reaction. Go to the hospital. A febrile seizure without a vaccine in the picture is typically harmless. It's going to last a really short amount of time and it doesn't have lasting side effects. But just while we're talking about like when to go get medical attention, that would be like if you've had a recent vaccine in the last week, if that's a part of the picture at all, and there's something alarming happening, go to the doctor.
Thank you for saying that, because that was not in my notes. It's like I know that in my head, but it wasn't in my notes.
And I'm sometimes get so far into this world that I forget that other people are new to it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, when I was a new mom, I would have needed to hear that. And my journey is just taken me far away from there. And so I forget that not everybody is there.
Right. But hopefully they're learning little by little, just
Yes.
like we did.
And
Okay.
usually the type of people that would listen to a birth podcast are not lining up for vaccines, but you never know.
There's a wide variety of people who haven't been introduced to certain information yet. So, okay, fevers. So, fevers are common, especially in infants. And I feel like I was taught that when your baby gets a fever, you're supposed to give them Tylenol. And that's what I was told. And then you're supposed to make an appointment to see your pediatrician. And I'm so glad that I know that I don't actually need to do either of those things now. Specifically, the Tylenol, not necessary, because a fever is really your body's way of fighting off whatever infection you have. And it's actually, a fever is a great sign that your body is doing exactly what it's supposed to do to help fight whatever invaders in your baby's body and help them heal. It is part of the healing process. So you don't actually want to suppress that fever, because it will elongate your baby's sickness or illness or whatever they have. So keeping their fever around is actually a good thing, and you'd have a shorter duration of the sickness for that. But things that you can do to help comfort them throughout this fever would be things like, first of all, skin to skin. And skin to skin doesn't end after your milk comes in. I feel like a lot of people do it for the first few days and then they forget they could ever do it again. But skin to skin is great, especially for fevers. It helps regulate your baby's body temperature. So if they do have a really high fever and you're trying to bring it down naturally just for their comfort, then putting them skin to skin with your body is super helpful. They also love all the extra snuggles while they're sick. So it's super helpful there. Lots of nursing, and I'm going to say that for any and every illness, lots of nursing. So if you are able to breastfeed, you're breastfeeding, or your baby's getting breast milk, as much breastfeeding as possible, because as most of you probably know, the breast milk has all those wonderful antibodies in it. Your body will then make even more antibodies when it realizes that your baby is sick. It's really cool. Your milk even changes color during that time.
It's crazy. It's
Which
so
is
cool.
crazy and awesome. But as much nursing as possible. Also, sunlight is great for every single illness. Just getting them out in the sun, getting them exposed to good fresh air, good natural sunlight, good vitamin D. Absolutely. Lots of rest, obviously. This isn't the time to be like taking them to a playground. Um, not that most infants go to playgrounds, but this isn't the time to be like out and about and shopping and all the things. This is a good time for good at-home rest, making sure that we're resting, taking, more naps than usual, going to sleep earlier than usual, etc. Also, this is new for a lot of people, and I know some people don't really believe in this, but wearing natural fibers or sleeping on natural fibers versus like polyester. So like having your baby sleep in ideally like a linen outfit or on linen sheets versus like polyester. And if you don't have linen, then just 100% cotton would be your next best bet. But if you look into it, which we don't have time to go into it in this episode, but there are actual healing frequencies of linen specifically to help your body heal faster when it's going through any sort of sickness. As your baby gets a little bit older and they can do things like bone broth soups, taking cod liver oil with the extra vitamin A, taking like a warm diluted Epsom salt bath. So this is when they're like 6 months or older, when they can handle a little bit more of that kind of stuff. Garlic in their socks. They're probably not going to swallow garlic at this point when they're such a little baby, but just putting it in their socks and wrapping, it under their feet, using a diluted essential oil roller and having those different oil companies have different names for that, but they all basically have like an immune boosting oil. And so we can dilute that down for the babies and roll it on their spines and their feet, things like that. I will say don't give them elderberry syrup until they're a year old because of the honey in it and the risk of botulism and all that stuff. And you're welcome to look into that. But once they hit a year, in theory, their guts can handle the honey and everything. So elderberry is always an option. And then I did just want to say that sometimes if they have a low fever that's not like super high and they don't really have any other symptoms, it could be a teething fever. I know Google will tell you that teething fevers don't exist and that it's a myth. But as a mom of 5, I would like to say they absolutely do exist. And not all of my kids got teething fevers, but a few of them did. Specifically, this last one always got a fever of like 99 or 100 right as his teeth were coming in. And he would get so fussy and so upset but it thankfully only lasted like a day or two and a tooth would pop through and all would be well.
Yeah, definitely a thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. So don't let someone tell you that teething fever is not a thing. I will say, this is just my little caveat, and then I'm going to let Emily jump in with what to do with homeopathy for fevers, is that we have had a handful of situations over the years where a child was absolutely miserable because their fever was so incredibly high and they were so uncomfortable that they could not sleep, that they could not rest because their fever was so high. And one night I remember our son specifically, and this was when he was older, so he wasn't a baby. He was probably like 7. He started hallucinating and telling us things that were not there. And my husband looks at me and he was like, I don't care. Get some Tylenol. And I was like, okay, let me run out and get the dye-free, like all this stuff, Genexa, whatever form of acetaminophen. And we really just use that like as a worst case scenario, as needed basis, just to bring it down enough to make them comfortable enough so that they can sleep and rest and that their body can continue fighting the infection, but it is definitely not a go-to. It is definitely not like first course of action. It's for us, absolute last resort.
Yeah, I think understanding that the medicine will always be there, but using it as a last resort instead of a first resort, that alone is going to just give you such a leg up on sickness and getting in front of things and helping support your kids' bodies. Viewing those things as if we need it, not starting there.
Right. All right. Now, from the homeopathy side, what do we do when our kid gets a fever?
Yeah, so I'm going to give some kind of blanket statements about homeopathy just so that y'all understand a little bit of a foundation from where I'm coming from, and like everything that I share is under this framework. So anything that I share is safe for newborns all the way through like your your elderly grandmother. There's no difference in dosing for babies, as you know, toddlers, big kids, even yourself. Like everything that I share, I have used on my children as young as I needed to. And of course, we want to be wise and use things with caution, and, not give things just in case, because homeopathy is medicine. So it should only be used when we're sick. So all the things that I share are only during the time of the illness. And then we back off as there's improvement. So it's very logical. Homeopathy is, I always say it's the medicine that we've all been looking for, because if you've ever wished, like you had a situation where you had a prescription and you were wishing that you could give that medication more often because your kids seemed like they really still needed more of it, but you're like, no, I have to follow the instructions. Homeopathy is that logical, like, I really feel like they need it again, and you can go ahead and give it again. And so you're listening to your motherly intuition and really getting to know and observing your kid. And this is a part of motherhood that I think, this is tangent, sorry. This is just part of motherhood that drugs have kind of hidden from us. They've masked it from us, and we don't get to know what our kid does during an illness because we jump to a drug as the first resort, and then we aren't trusting ourselves and listening to what the kids or our own bodies are telling us. So really just being an observant student of your child. And with babies, this is even more important because they can't tell you what's wrong. So if something is severe, you can give the homeopathy more often. And as there's improvement, you can back down. So you'll hear me say probably several times throughout this episode, every 4 hours, then twice a day, then once a day. Because as they are no longer needing it, you're allowing the body to work on its own, and you can pull back from dosing as often. And then, of course, once they're better, we won't use homeopathy at all because it's only for illnesses. How to give it to babies? Sorry, just giving all this up front so that as you guys are listening through, you have it. I just pop a pellet into their cheek. So some of these dissolve really quickly and some of them take longer, but the pellets are very small. People always ask me about choking on the pellets, but they're really so tiny. I've never had a kid choke on one. And if they push it out with their little tongue, you just pop it back in there. They can be diluted in breast milk or water, but I am a big fan of just whatever makes my life easier as a mom. I have 5 kids, and dissolving something in breast milk or crushing it with 2 spoons and giving them a little powder, like you'll see these things online. None of that makes my life easier. You can do it if it's your comfort zone, but I just put the remedy straight into their mouth and I keep moving because I'm usually treating all of them. If the baby's sick, they're usually all sick. So just a pellet in the mouth, let it dissolve. Um, you saying about the hallucinations was a perfect segue into homeopathy, because belladonna is an amazing homeopathic remedy for fevers, and this is going to be for a high fever. So something, 103 or higher. And if it's a newborn, you don't want to let it go over 103. But for maybe a 6-month old or 1 year old, you can use belladonna. And a baby is not going to be able to tell you about hallucinations. But a big kid might start to say weird things, or they might say that they had like a nightmare while they had a fever. And that's one of the signs for needing belladonna. Another sign is glassy eyes, extremely lethargic, red hot, like their skin is hot to the touch. And it's almost like a sunburn where if you put your hand on their face, your hand is still hot after you take it away. So all of those are reasons to use belladonna. And again, you can do that every couple hours if it's severe, or you could do it twice a day or once a day as things improve. And it's a great all around medicine. So you're going to hear me mention it again, probably. But for a lower grade fever, ferrum phos is another really good one. You can do that in a 6X. And I like those because the cell salts are really easy to dissolve. So that's great for babies. And again, you're only going to do that during the duration that they're sick. So the great thing about homeopathy is that it never suppresses what the body's trying to do. So if you've given Tylenol or a prescription, over the counter drug, then that can mask the symptoms. It could help your child feel better in the moment, but it's not helping the body fight off what's wrong in the first place. And we can feel relieved because there's no fever, but the body hasn't really done what it was trying to do. You're suppressing the immune system. Homeopathy never suppresses. So if you are giving belladonna or ferrum phos or another homeopathic remedy for teething, you have only helped the body work through it in the way that it was trying to do while making the child more comfortable and alleviating some of those symptoms. Like the hallucinations are really distressing for the child and for you as the mom. So you're helping everybody feel better and the symptoms are improving, but you're also supporting the body at that deepest level of what it was trying to do in the first place. And then for a teething fever, I love chamomilla. And chamomilla, I call it the toddler remedy because this is like the child wants the passy. And then as soon as you give it to them, they throw it down. Or they want their lovey. And as soon as you give it to them, they throw it down. And they want to be picked up. Oh, no, they don't. It's like nothing can satisfy them. They're very irritable. And fussiness alone is a good enough reason to give chamomilla. So I'm just putting that out there. So free advice. But for a teething fever, it's really good too. So teething pain, teething fever, sleeplessness from teething, chamomilla is my go-to. And I've given that, as young as 3 months old. So y'all are probably going to have lots of questions as you're listening. Like, is this safe for my blank month old? And my answer, if you're using homeopathy, is yes to all ages.
To all of it.
Yeah.
Yes. And I do want to reiterate, if you are a little bit confused about homeopathy in general, how it works, why it works, all those things, please go back and listen to episode 77 because Emily explains all of that in that episode. But we did
deep dive.
Yeah, she deep dives into it in episode 77. So go back and listen to that first, maybe, and then jump back into this episode so you understand it a little bit better. Okay, moving on to ear infections. Whether you are pregnant with your first baby or wanting to have a different birth experience for a subsequent delivery, this is the fully comprehensive Christian childbirth course for you, the Surrendered Birth Course. With over 10 years of experience as a childbirth educator, a birth doula, and having had 5 kids myself, almost 6, I have created a course fit for every mama out there who wishes to be fully informed on all things pregnancy, labor, birth, postpartum, and breastfeeding, while remembering to keep Jesus at the center of it all. Our God created a beautiful design for birth, something to look forward to, and not something to be feared. Not only will this course get you prepared for your birth, but it will also get you excited for it. It will answer questions you never knew you had and teach you things you didn't realize were so incredibly valuable and central to the entire birthing process. I've had numerous couples on their 2nd, 3rd, or even 4th babies who've taken this course and said how incredibly glad they were and that they learned so much more than they ever thought they would. With over 12 hours of video content, 5 modules, numerous lessons, detailed PDF printout notes, and endless resources, we dive deep into pregnancy, labor, the risks and benefits of interventions, inductions, immediate and extended postpartum for both mom and baby, everything you need to know about breastfeeding, and basic newborn care. This course covers everything. Once you've taken the course, I am available to you for any questions you might have during a monthly live Q&A Zoom call exclusive to our online course audience, as well as through email. The course is on demand, so as soon as you purchase it, you'll be able to start right away and re-watch any lessons as many times as you need. Whether you are planning a medicated hospital birth or an unmedicated birth at a birth center or home birth, this course will prepare you in every way that you can be prepared. While I understand the desire to take a specific hospital or home birth course catered to your specific birth plans, birth doesn't always go how we plan. And having the knowledge of how birth can go in other environments outside of our plans is essential. Most importantly, I will help you to surrender these plans to God. And in return, the Holy Spirit will provide you with the peace that only He can give. For more information on the course, to read testimonials of others who have taken it, or to sign up for the course, just click the link in the show notes. And lastly, remember, just like we say here every week on the podcast, learn all that you can, make the best plans, and then leave it in God's hands. Ear infections, which is another common illness of especially that first year of life. Again, like Emily was mentioning, a baby cannot usually tell us with their words, what they're experiencing, but there are typically going to be signs. Most ear infections present with a fever, but not all of them. But so again, if they do have a fever, feel free to jump back and treat like we just talked about for all of the fever stuff. But usually they're, pulling on their ears or irritable when you lay them down. It's sort of like they're sitting up and they're fine, but then you lay them down and they start getting upset from the pressure in their ears. So things like that. Sometimes they have totally weird symptoms. My kids did not actually get very many ear infections. I think we had one child have one time. My second kid was almost like 2 before he had one. And then that was pretty much it until actually a little bit more recently, but that's a different story. But his only symptom, get this, his only symptom was that when you would lay him down for bed at night and he was down for more than a couple of hours, he would wake up about like 3 or so hours after you put him down and he would throw up everywhere. Just like,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, just like throw up everything in his body. But then it was like, that was it. It was a one-time thing. You put him back to bed and he was fine the rest of the night. But then the whole next day, he would be totally fine. Walk around, play. And he wasn't talking at the time, so he couldn't tell me, but he was totally fine. Then the next night, we go back to sleep. 3 hours later, woke up, threw up everywhere. And it went on like this for 4 nights. And I was like, what is going on? Fine during the day, throwing up once every night. And so I did take him to the pediatrician, and she was like, she couldn't tell me like what was wrong. And then I Googled it and wasn't like Googling that, but I was like searching symptoms and mommy blogs and stuff like this. And I found another mom out there who had the same experience, and it ended up being an ear infection. And what it was that the fluid, when they would lay down, was draining into the back of their throat. And so much would eventually drain that it like hit their gag reflex and would just make them cough and throw everything up. So yeah, so I'm like,
gosh, that's amazing that you were able to figure that out.
It would have been so much simpler if he could just pull on his ears and tell me that they hurt. But anyways.
But thanks, got to clean up throw up 4 nights in a row.
Yes. Okay, but here's what we do when our kid has an ear infection, or our babies. So you can do the garlic ear drops, the garlic mullein drops. You can find those anywhere. And I was thinking, we're mentioning so many different things. I'll try and link as many things in the show notes as possible. Hopefully my husband's taking a detailed list as he edits this. So you can do the garlic drops in the ear, 3 or 4 times a day. You can always do breast milk in the ear. So if you're actively breastfeeding, you can literally just squirt straight out of your nipple into their ear because that has the antibodies that are also fighting the infection. You can also, just for comfort, do like a warm salt sock over their ear. That can help. Obviously, they're a baby, so you're going to have to hold it on there for them. You can do the diluted like tea tree and lavender oils around their ear and around where it's going to be painful. Um, and also, I meant to mention this with fever too, but going to the chiropractor and taking your baby to the chiropractor, that's going to help boost their immune system. I believe the statistic is by 200%. But even when they're sick, so people do get concerned about like, oh, I don't want to take my baby out when they're sick, if they're contagious, blah, blah, blah. I know the vast majority of chiropractors welcome you when you are sick so that they can help you feel better. Usually you just let them know ahead of time, like, hey, I think my baby has an ear infection or they have a fever or they have a cold. And they're great. They're great about you coming in. But chiropractic care definitely is a great way to help. Obviously, you can't do that at 3 a.m., but you can schedule it hopefully for the next day. We've also done like onion compresses over the ear and like raw garlic over the ear and just like holding it on there with like a cotton ball and a Band-Aid, things like that to help with the pain and the fluid and the drainage and all that kind of stuff. So it's a little smelly, but it's very, very helpful. And obviously, like I said, for all of these, nursing them as much as possible.
Yeah. So you guys are going to be shocked. Two of my favorite remedies for ear infections are belladonna and chamomilla. So it's beautiful how these things overlap, because if the ear infection was the reason for the fever and you were giving belladonna, that's also helping with the ear pain and it's helping uproot the infection itself. Same thing with chamomilla. If you were giving that because your kid was fussy and they were up in the middle of the night and you thought, well, maybe it's teething, or you just remembered that I had said it for fever, so you used it, but it turned out to be ear pain. Great remedy for ear pain. And I take this for myself because I get bad ear pain when I fly. And so when that happens to me and I'm in pain, I take chamomilla. It's beautiful how they overlap and they cover so many different things. And like I said, they're uprooting the infection itself. So it is helping the child feel better, but it's also getting to the infection and why it happened in the first place. So you never have to worry that you're just covering it up or that you're just helping them feel better. And homeopathy is just, it's incredible because it's going to prevent them from getting ear infections in the future. If they do get future ear infections, they will be less severe and they'll last a shorter amount of time. It's incredible.
Gotta love that. I feel like that's the best part.
It is. I always say this is the best part. And then I say that like about 5 different aspects of homeopathy, but I just love it.
Okay, so let me ask you a question that other people are probably thinking. Can you take or can you give to your baby belladonna and chamomilla together at the same time?
I'd probably do them 5 minutes apart if I had a reason to think that I needed both. Screaming pain from an ear infection is usually going to be belladonna, but they also work really well hand in hand. And so I might do, and I'll just give you guys a real life example. My daughter was, I think, 3 when this happened. She woke up in the middle of the night, or it was 11. It was the middle of the night for her. I was not in bed yet, but she's just screaming, 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 saying that her ear hurt. And so I started alternating belladonna and then 10 minutes later, chamomilla, or maybe it was even 5 minutes because she was really screaming. And then I just kept doing that until she finally, it was down to a whimper. Okay. So that's improvement. This is what I was saying earlier about just being really observant about what improvement really means. And, trying not to have that anxiety as the mom, because you are helping them, but you're also being realistic about, okay, she was screaming and now she's just whimpering. That's a good sign. And then eventually it just got to where, so we're still doing this every 5 minutes and I'm just holding her. And she was just kind of pitifully every few seconds going, my ear, so that's a big improvement from the screaming that we started with. And so that probably went on for about an hour and then she fell asleep. So that's a great sign. When you're using homeopathy, or really when you're using any natural modality and the body needs that rest time, sleep is a good thing. So you don't have to worry like I've overdosed them. It's a good thing. Let them rest. I've never ever woken up a sleeping child to give them more of a remedy, because the sleep means that the body's doing exactly what it needed to do. And that's when healing happens. So I put her back in her bed, and she probably woke up one more time that night. So like 3 a.m. And I went in, I gave her belladonna, held her for a little bit, gave her chamomilla, and then I put her back in her bed and I went back to my room, and she slept the rest of the night. In the morning, same thing. So I used both, but I used them a few minutes apart, and then I only used them when I needed them. But it was taken care of in less than 24 hours, which was really cool. And that is one of the only ear infection experiences we've had. I can probably think of 3 off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe we've had more ear infections than I realized, but because I thought it was teething and I gave them chamomilla, they just kind of worked it out, because these medicines were covering kind of anything that could have been going on.
Right.
Is
And
that confusing, or did I answer your question?
no, that answered my question. But I just think there's so many first time parents specifically who they suspect their baby might have an ear infection. They take him to the pediatrician. The pediatrician prescribes antibiotics. They give their baby antibiotics. And that cycle continues for years. And
Yeah.
it's like your baby gets more ear infections. They need more antibiotics, stronger antibiotics, more often.
Tubes.
Yeah, tubes in their ears, all the things. And it just like goes on and on and on. And so if you know anything about the dangers of having too many antibiotics or using antibiotics with any sort of frequency, you'll know that avoiding them is usually the best way if you can. And usually for, I would say, the vast majority of ear infections, you can avoid antibiotics. You don't need them.
Yeah, and I had that experience as a first-time mom. I can't remember if I shared this on my other podcast episode or not, but I was breastfeeding, so I thought my kid wouldn't get sick. And then when she was 7 months old, she got a double ear infection and bronchitis, and I just freaked. I didn't want to give her the antibiotics, but I was like a chicken with my head cut off. I didn't know what to do. And I will never forget how panicked I felt. And I just wanted to be prepared next time. And that was such a catalyst. I think I did say this, but it's okay. That was just such a catalyst into me wanting to dive into homeopathy and any natural method I could find. Really, I was open to any of it, but homeopathy just made so much sense. It was so logical to me. It was everything I'd been looking for, because I knew that I didn't want to be in that position again where I felt stuck. And you can always go get their ears looked at and then decide on your own how to treat it. And I wouldn't even say like, would it be okay if I gave her belladonna at home? Like, your pediatrician's probably going to not be
Look
okay
at you
with that,
crazy.
but you can just say, okay, thank you for checking her ears. Like, you can even receive the prescription from them, and then you have it in case you need it. It'll always be there if you aren't able to get to the bottom of it with the other things that you're doing. But homeopathy it's so powerful because it is part of what has made me the mom that I am. And people are always like, "Oh, you're so confident when you talk about this," but that's only because I've been using it for so long. When I was a scared new mom and I had no clue what I was doing, I just knew that I didn't want to give antibiotics for a sinus infection and an ear infection and every little thing, and I didn't want to give Tylenol for teething. Like, I just knew there had to be something better. And homeopathy was like, it just burst my world wide open, because it was that thing I'd been looking for. And I just hope that y'all are able to take away a lot of really good tips from today, because it's possible to do this. It can feel scary when you're kind of going off on this uncharted territory, because you might be the first person in your friend group that's had a baby. You know, our parents might not have done these unconventional methods
Might
with
not have.
us.
They absolutely did not do any of that.
I mean, I
They
think I
slapped some
had,
Vicks vapor rub on our chest and gave
yeah,
us some Tylenol and put us back to bed.
right. Yeah, I had strep and antibiotics so many times as a kid.
Oh, me
And
too.
yeah, I just hope that y'all are able to feel really confident about what you're doing, because it's possible. And of course, Kayla and I are here and can answer questions.
Absolutely. I meant to say this when we did mention teething, but we have also really loved Earthly's Teeth Tamer, that tincture. That's been like one of those like immediate relief things for us, where we just put like a little drop of it on our finger and then put it on their teeth. And that's been helpful too. And we also use the Feel Better Fast tincture, but again, not until they're like 6 months old. It does not taste great. They're
Yeah,
probably
the
not
herbal
big.
ones are rough.
Yeah, they're not big fans of it. but we'll use that as well once they get old enough. But those are like when you're doing herbal, holistic things like that, if you don't start them right away and stay like on top of them, they're not going to be as effective. So if you wait until like day 2 or 3 of the sickness and then give it to them once, it's not going to be super helpful. It's more so like, oh, I think they're coming down with something. Let me go ahead and give them this tincture or whatever to help, head it off a little bit. Okay. Moving on to the common cold, which is going to include coughs, flu, and croup. I feel like croup is a lot more common in infants, especially. But moving on to that whole category of sicknesses, the upper respiratory, snotty noses, all the things. I'm going to say this again: sunlight, chiropractic care, and nursing constantly. Those are going to be your go-tos for pretty much everything. Now, nursing, I know, can be complicated when your baby's nose is like all stuffed up with mucus. When it's that case and they feel like they can't breathe while they're nursing, then I would do some sort of mucus remover. We have the nose Frida, where you stick the little tube in their mouth and you suck on the other side.
Jossie loves doing it. He enjoys it. I'm really bad at it. I'm like, yeah, wait till Daddy gets home. He can get that for you.
It's deeply satisfying. I find it more gentle and more effective than the bulb syringe. Although if all you have is a bulb syringe, then that's better than nothing. I know people have like fancy electronic ones now that I don't have, but I hear that's a thing. But anyways.
Yeah, we don't have that either.
Yeah. Removing the mucus from your kid's nose so that you can nurse them, so that they can eat, and things like that. That is definitely a good idea. If they're having a cough and croup is one of those common coughs of infancy. It's that barky seal cough that's very, very noticeable. Typically what'll happen is baby will go down fine and they'll wake up in the middle of the night with this barking cough. It sounds way scarier than it is, but things you can do. You can use a nebulizer. I also think that's a great tool just for everyone to have in their home. Getting in the bathroom and doing the hot, steamy air, like just run the bath really hot. Don't put your baby in it. You're just sitting outside of the bath and and breathing in the hot, steamy air. And obviously like having like a humidifier running in their room, diffusing oils in their room. We have like the one specifically for like breathing and helping like open your airways and stuff. With Croup specifically, after doing that, getting them outside, even if it's like 3:00 in the morning, and helping them walk in like the really cool, crisp air. And if it's the middle of summer for some reason when they have Croup, although most Croup is in winter, but if it's in summertime, you can, like after that hot, steamy air session, you can take them and stand them next to an open freezer and help them breathe in like the cool air from the freezer. You put a hat on them and like wrap them in a blanket and stuff, but just it helps to open their airways and stuff so they can breathe better and not be coughing so hard. If they're having trouble, like every time they lay down, they start coughing really bad, you can tilt their crib mattress up, so that it's at an angle, so they're sleeping at an angle. Or you can also just let them sleep on your chest and you're like propped up yourself. Yes, it's going to be a hard night of sleep for you, but if it will help them to sleep better, those are the sacrifices we make as parents. Also, we have this cough salve. My friend actually makes it here locally. Her company is called Sweet Surrender, but she has this cough salve. It smells heavenly. And like, and I don't usually like the smell of things. But I love the smell of this. And it's like, all natural. It's the coconut oil base, but it has several different oils in it and stuff. But like rubbing it on their chest, around their rib cage, on their back, anywhere, where their lungs are, where it's going to help them to breathe better. It's sort of like your very natural, crunchy version of a Vicks Vapor Rub. That's going to help them breathe better. Also, again, like we said, if they're 6 months or older, doing the soups and the broths and the cod liver oil, etc. And also just anytime you're sick, but especially anytime your baby's sick, if they're old enough to be eating solid foods and stuff, you're focusing on those like vitamin C rich foods and you're cutting out any kind of sugar and especially dairy. So like when they have any sort of cough or something, like staying away from the dairy and the sugar while they're recovering from that illness, just to help their body do it better. And then the last thing I'll say about this is onions. um, Onions are great. Cut up an onion and put it next to their crib. Cut up an onion and put it in their socks. Make an onion. Oh, Emily, how do you say this? Is it poultice?
Poultice.
Poultice?
I
Is that
think
how you
so.
say it? I'm like, I literally never know how to say this.
Just say a mash. Just make a mash.
A mash, an onion mash. Okay. So an onion mash and putting it on their chest. Because the onions, when you're cutting up onions and you're cooking dinner, that's why your eyes are like crying because they help secrete all of that mucous membrane and help move fluid really easily. And so that's super helpful when you have, a cough and a cold. So doing that. But what can we do homeopathy wise?
So my oldest did not get sick until she was 7 months old, but all of my other babies got sick much earlier than that because, of course, they had toddler and big kid siblings who
Oh,
brought
yeah.
germs to them. So I've done this as young as 4 weeks old, 2 weeks old. I mean, when my newborn got a runny nose, I would give them these Highlands Tiny Cold tablets. They're super soft. They just dissolve in the mouth. And they tell you directions on the bottle for how to use those. So that's super helpful. And I think they say 2 to 3 tablets for a newborn. I just do one. There's no safety reason for that. That's just to save money because, again, I probably also have other kids who are taking those tablets. So I'm just trying to make the bottle last longer. So I just do one.
Amen.
And then for bigger kids, I mean, my whole family takes the Tiny Cold tablets. We love those. I even take them myself. But Cold Calm, you guys have probably seen that in stores. The Highlands Cough and Cold. Chestal cough syrup is probably the only thing that I'm going to even say today that I would not give to a baby because it's got honey. So maybe just wait until they're closer to a year old for that one. But my other kids love the Chestal cough syrup. And then for Croup, what I would do, and like Kayla said, this is that barky cough in the middle of the night. Usually it can also sometimes sound like a chainsaw, sometimes like a seal, like Kayla said. But it's got a distinctively different sound and it's a dry cough. It's not a congested cough. For a congested cough, I love Hepar sulf. And don't worry because we're going to spell these in the show notes. I know these Latin words are fun. But for croup, this is my tried and true is aconite 200. Aconite is a great remedy to use for anything that happens in the middle of the night for whatever reason. It's just probably going to be aconite. Aconite 200 at the same time as Hepar sulf and Spongia tosta. And again, we'll spell all these for you guys, but those 3 things combined, it has never not worked for me. I'm talking 1 dose back to bed, never hear about it again. Like it is amazing for croup. And if you are concerned about oxygen level, so maybe what you've tried is not working, you're starting to be concerned about shortness of breath and thinking that a hospital trip may be in order. I just want to share this one because you never know what could be literally a lifesaver for somebody. It's called Carbo Veg. And that remedy is so good for low oxygen. It's called air hunger. So air hunger for any reason. If there's, you've possibly bought one of those oxygen checkers. I can't remember what you said it was called.
A pulse ox.
A pulse ox. Yes. So maybe you've used that and you've realized, wow, this is way too low. I'm scared. You can give Carbo Veg and you could even, if you're still going to go to the doctor, that is fine. And you could give this on the way so that you have something that can make them feel better in the meantime. And possibly by the time you get there, there's no concern anymore. So I just wanted to put that one out there too, because the wheezing and anything with breathing can be really concerning. So that's a great one for parents to know about. And that can even be given to a newborn if they're having trouble breathing at birth. That's a great remedy for them. In the homeopathy world, we literally call carbo-veg the corpse reviver. When you see blue lips, carbo-veg is what you're going to. Now, that's kind of a morbid nickname, but there are so many testimonials out there of just crazy circumstances where there was a baby who was, at a home birth or even a hospital birth and not breathing, and they give them carbo-veg, and it's like
they come to life.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's great.
And it doesn't have to be that severe to use it. If you see wheezing, then please grab that one.
So as you're like saying all this, I'm thinking like, yeah, RSV, that's everyone's like, it's like the big media news, like, oh, RSV, like everybody's getting that. And I think they're even trying to, of course, they're trying to come out with a vaccine for that now. I think they actually did.
Yeah, it's
darn. That's a topic for another day. But these are all things you can do for that. Now I will say, again, like we said in the beginning, if your baby's lips are turning blue, if you feel like they're not getting enough air, if their oxygen is low, and they're having those
retractions.
Yes.
Chest retractions with
if their
RSV.
chest is retracting. And you can look up videos of that to see like what that looks like. Because that can be scary too. Now, if they're retracting, that doesn't mean you have to go straight to the ER, but it does mean I would definitely try to, give the carbo-veg, the nebulize, try to open up their airway, make sure their oxygen level is high enough and stuff. But obviously, if not, breathing is not something you mess around with. And, feel free to take them on in and get them some help if it is that truly that severe.
Yeah, always let common sense prevail. You can give it on the way to the hospital, but this is common sense parenting.
If you don't have a peace in your spirit about staying at home, then don't stay at home. Right. Whatever the Holy Spirit's giving you more peace about. With everything we just talked about, you can also apply that to flu, because I feel like the flu is really a combination of a cold and a fever, put them together. And you've got the flu, especially if now your baby's not going to be able to tell you if they're having body ache or things like that. And I can never pronounce it. But you know what I'm talking about. That starts with an O and it's really long. We keep that stocked in our house for the flu. And even I remember last Christmas. Okay, go ahead and say the word so we know what we're talking about.
It's pronounced oscillococcinum.
Yeah. See, I always say oscillocilium. And
yeah, I used to say oscilloconium, and that's not right. I don't know why Boron couldn't have just called it flu calm, but oscillococcinum is the remedy.
Yes. So that's the homeopathic remedy if you feel like you're getting the flu. And I will say last year we had a really, I'm just going to say stressful and emotional Christmas, between like several personal events going on in our life and our dog dying and all of these things. It was just like all happened all at once. And then there's just the stress that can be Christmas. And as I was going to bed on Christmas Day, I was like, oh no. I started feeling the body ache. I started getting the chills, felt the fever coming on, and I like ran to the cabinet and grabbed the
it's fine. It's fine.
The remedy, the homeopathic remedy for the flu, and took it and just like covered myself on with blankets and went to bed. And I woke up like a couple hours later and I felt so much better. And usually I feel like when the flu's coming on, you can have that body ache and stuff for a few days. And I was just like on top of it. I was just like, I know what this is. I'm treating it right away. And I do think it was less of a flu like virus and more of like my body responding to all of the stress and sugar. I may have had like 4 cinnamon rolls that day.
Christmas Day. What else are you eating? Obviously.
And maybe like 4 cups of coffee. I don't know. So I was like, I did this to myself. I know it's like the stress and the sugar and the caffeine. But thankfully with that remedy, I was able to not only fall asleep, but like stay asleep and then feel better like that night. And so that's what we give our kids too if we feel like they're coming down with the flu. And those little bottles have so many pellets in them. I just usually go around to each and sprinkle a little in each of their mouths.
Yep, that was one of my best money saving hacks when somebody told me that I did not have to actually take that
The
entire
entire
vial.
bottle. Yeah.
You can give, just 5 or however many come out just to save money. Again, it's not
Uh-huh.
a safety reason, it's just being
Money
frugal.
saving reason. Yes. Okay. Moving on, and this one probably won't take as long. Pink eye or conjunctivitis, as you know, your pediatrician would say. Sometimes this presents with a cold, and sometimes it just presents on its own. So it's sort of case by case basis there. So if it does present with a cold, you can treat like we just talked about for all the cold symptoms as well, or fever, anything. But for the actual eye itself, if you're breastfeeding, you can squirt breast milk straight into the eye to help with the green goop and the red color and the irritation and all of that. You can literally just drop it like you would eardrops in the ear. You drop breast milk in the eye, same thing. We've also used when I'm not nursing and I don't have any milk, which is basically only when I'm pregnant in the last 12 years, we'll use colloidal silver and do those drops like 3 to 4 times a day, a couple drops in each eye. We've also do like the warm compresses, like the warm washcloths on the eye, and chamomile tea bag compresses. So if you just warm up the little tea bag of chamomile tea and put that over the eye as well, that's super good for pink eye as well. And usually when we do these things, ours is gone in like a day because we're on top of it. We start it right from the get-go. We don't have to go to the pediatrician. We don't have to get, an eye drop prescription. We can just do all this at home.
Yeah, isn't it so convenient when you don't have to arrange childcare and scramble for your other kids to get the one to the pediatrician, and you can just like handle it. It's
Right.
so nice.
And you just rest at home. Pink eye's like my least favorite, I will say, of all the sicknesses, because usually my kids only have the pink eye symptom and 0 other symptoms. So they feel great and they're bouncing off the walls, but we can't go anywhere.
Yeah,
And so I'm
super
like,
annoying.
darn you, pink eye.
Yeah, we're like quarantined, but we feel fine. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I echo that about colloidal silver. I've done like a compress with silver on it, or like if the goopy eye boogers are not coming off, like just doing colloidal silver on the wet washcloth and like rinsing off the eye boogers that way. My favorite for the green, goopy, disgusting pink eye is Hepar sulf. And then if it's just a pink eye and there aren't a whole lot of the goopy crusties, then pulsatilla is another really good one. Both of those are good though. The worst case that I've actually ever seen of pink eye was with my husband and my dad. And my dad was using the drops from his ophthalmologist, like prescription pink eye drops, and it was still just getting worse. And it was different than anything I've ever seen because it was also hot. And like Dossie kept saying that he felt like he had pressure behind his eye. And so belladonna probably would have been good because it was red, it was hot, and those are belladonna symptoms. But for some reason, the only thing I could think of was sulfur. And so that's what I told my dad to go get. That's what Dossie used. And Dossie's was gone in 24 hours. My dad's took a little bit longer, but he was also using the eye drops from the doctor. So I think if he had started off with the sulfur, it would have been gone quicker. But it solved it for both of them. And I've never seen anything like it. It was really crazy because of how severe it was. And that's just another kind of thing to know about homeopathy is sometimes with very severe symptoms, you'll see improvement even faster. With something low lying, like just an annoying cold that's hanging around, a cough that's just nagging and it won't go away, it can feel like the homeopathy is not helping. And it is, but it's just harder to notice those improvements when the illness is kind of
Not as
dragging out. It's
intense.
not as
Yeah.
severe.
That makes perfect sense. It would be harder to notice a change.
Yeah. But then with the loud in your face symptoms that are unusual and they're just really disrupting the person's life, that's where homeopathy sometimes can really shine and it can feel miraculous because you're like, oh my gosh, I just gave you this and you're so much better. Like you were saying with the oscillococcinum. It's
with
crazy.
that one. I need like a training course in how to say that.
It's not worth it. It's fine.
I'll just say the flu one. Okay, the last one we're going to talk about today, and we understand there's way more out there, which is why we suggest getting these books. And and also, you can reach out to us, but definitely homeopathy for Emily. She's the expert on that. I am still very, very amateur in that world, but learning
You know more
more.
than you think you do. I
Okay.
mean, you know more than 99% of the population, I
Okay,
promise.
well, that's great. I'm doing great.
You are.
So, the tummy bug, whenever you have the dreaded stomach bug, which to me is my least favorite of all of them because it's so messy. With infants, they do, and through toddlerhood, they really don't know when they're about to throw up, and the aim is terrible, and you're cleaning and cleaning and cleaning all
Yeah.
the time.
The laundry.
So,
And then
yeah,
sometimes you're sick and you're doing all of that
right.
laundry
You're
also, and
throwing
the
up
scrubbing
while
the
taking,
carpet and
yep. Oh, it's my least favorite times as a parent. Literally, my least favorite times as a parent is
and
like
you
when,
guys have had a lot of stomach bugs like recently, I feel like in the last couple of years.
so praise the Lord, we haven't had any for a year and a half. Although now that I say that, I'm sure one's coming. But last May, we got the whatever virus. I don't even know what the name of it was, but it was like you would throw up for the first, 12 plus hours. Some of our kids threw up longer than others, and then it would turn into diarrhea. And then you had diarrhea for like 3 or 4 days. And I remember it was brutal. Chris never got it, praise the Lord, but all 5 of the kids and myself did. And I remember calling my mom because Chris went to church, and I said, Mom, I was like, I understand you probably have no desire to come over here. I was like, but I need you. So
Oh,
please come and help us. It was a Sunday. I was like, I know you're not working. Glove up, do whatever you need to do. But like, I was like, I have not slept all night. I have been up with a throwing up baby, like, because he was 7 months at the time. And yes, he was about 7 months old. And here's the thing, people say, well, how am I going to notice the difference between spit up and a stomach bug? You will know. It will be
you'll know.
very, very evident to you. Like when they spit up, it's like, okay, there's a little bit of spit up from their feeding. When they have the tummy bug, it looks like a fountain is pouring out of their body. And it's beyond. It's way more than just like the breast milk that they had. But anyways, along with that, with your infant, really the best thing you can do for them is to keep nursing just so they stay hydrated, because it is easy for them to get dehydrated, especially when they're a baby and there's really nothing else they can have. So giving them as much breast milk as you can, because they do usually still want to nurse. Sometimes they don't, but then also having all of the towels at the ready. So like putting towels all over your bed, putting towels all over the couch, towels, extra sheets, buckets everywhere, because it travels fast through the family, and just like being prepared. That way you're not having to like strip down to the mattress every single time. But so we just lay like towels upon towels down so that we can just like take the layer of towels off and put a new layer of towels on when it goes everywhere else. I will say you can diffuse like peppermint oil or roll on peppermint oil to help with like the nausea itself. I don't think that will prevent them necessarily from getting sick, but might just help them feel better. And then for everyone else in the house, if someone throws up and it's just one person or the baby or something, usually it's not the baby. Usually the baby is last. But for everyone else in the house, what we do is we mix 100% Concord grape juice, like basically like a fourth of a cup of that, with a quarter teaspoon. So that's really small. A quarter teaspoon of the charcoal powder, of black charcoal powder. And we mix that together. And the charcoal powder doesn't taste like anything, which is great. And the grape juice tastes good to your kids. So that's great. And just drink that a couple of times a day. And that can prevent you from actually getting sick. You'll still have the virus in your body, but the charcoal will pull it from your body before it has a chance to like get into your stomach and everything. My husband swears by that, and he usually does not get sick whenever we have the tummy bug. and he's really good about staying on top of his grape juice and charcoal. So we give it to the other kids too whenever someone starts to throw up, just to make sure that nobody else does if we can really prevent it. Holistic side, you really don't need to take them to the doctor unless, like, again, like we talked about in the beginning, they're so lethargic. You can't get them to keep anything down for days and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I need to get on to the charcoal thing. I This just goes to show that everybody, like even somebody who's super crunchy, still has things that they're just not well versed in or like not super comfortable with. I feel like I have no idea how to use charcoal, and it would be great to have on hand for preventing the stomach bug. And I just feel like I can't wrap my mind around it. I guess I just need to do more research, but
Well, it lasts a long time because you get a jar of powder and you only use a quarter teaspoon at a time per serving or whatever. So it, like, we've had the same jar for a few years and it's still going strong.
yeah, I need to get that. Yeah, my favorites for the stomach bug. So Nux vomica, that does what it sounds like. It's for when you feel like vomiting. um, so that one is great for nausea, upset stomach. If you feel like you're coming down with something, it's just a great overall remedy for anything stomach related. Almost any kind of gastro problem, I'd probably start there. But if there's diarrhea, and especially if it's like burning diarrhea, I know that's so pleasant to think about, but we've all been there. Arsenicum album is a great remedy for that. And you could even alternate those. So if you're throwing up and you're having diarrhea, then you could be taking like, I would take those every 15 minutes if I just could not like get off
Stop.
the toilet or stop throwing up. I would be taking that more often. And then as soon as there was improvement, I would go down to every hour and then every 3 hours and so on, like we've talked about. But you can alternate those if you're kind of having every symptom. And then another one, the last one that I'll share, this has worked well for us in the past. It's kind of like the Hail Mary, like nothing else is working. And especially if it's just throwing up, but it's like relentless vomiting. We've had a couple of just weird throw up things, and it's like no one else in the house is throwing up, but every day at a certain time, this one kid is just throwing up every 10 minutes. And it's really upsetting to watch and to clean up. And so that remedy is Ipecac. And if you guys think, I don't know, like if people are aware of this, but back 100 or 150 years ago, grandma would have had a bottle of Ipecac, the chemical, the drug in the cabinet. That would be its like raw form. And so they would give that if somebody had ingested poison. And so it was to make you throw up. But Ipecac in the homeopathic form is going to stop you from throwing up. And of course, it supports the body instead of suppressing and making you have another symptom. So that's just a fun historical fact for you. I just have to throw in some history anytime I talk about
Anytime you can.
homeopathy.
It's great. I love it. Well, I know that was a lot, but it's funny because I feel like we covered like the tip of the iceberg, honestly, in this world of illnesses and homeopathy and holistic remedies and all the things. So, if you want to learn more, definitely recommend getting those books. I definitely recommend following Emily. She is a wealth of knowledge and information, always posting great stuff in her stories and great reels. And she does classes and all sorts of great stuff. So definitely look into that. And then honestly, let me know if this episode was beneficial to you, if you liked it, because I know it's a swerve tangent off from birth stories, but I figure all of you who are listening to birth stories are going to have babies, and all of those babies are going to get sick at some point. And it's just good to know what to do when that happens. So like Emily said, you don't have to panic and run to the doctor or feel like, you're at a total loss at 3:00 in the morning. So I will say, just personally for me, of my almost 12 years of parenting now and almost 6 kids, my very, very least favorite part of parenting and taking care of children is when one of my children gets sick, or all of them. That's the absolute worst. For me, I'm not a naturally anxious person by any means. But when it's 3:00 in the morning and one of my kids gets sick, that's like my flesh's first reaction is anxiety. And I really have to just call that lie what it is and call on the Lord and pray in that moment for God's peace, because I am equipped to handle this. And He did, make me this child's mother for a reason, and He will help me to take care of them. But I have to pray for His peace in the midst of that, because I feel like just the society that we live in, the culture that we've been raised in, we've been trained to fear and to panic and to be afraid of when our kid gets sick and fear the worst and Google the worst and all those things. So hopefully this episode will help you not to do all of that. And you can feel confident that when your little one starts to get ill, and it's never fun, it's always a bad feeling. It's never, something that you enjoy about parenting, but it is something that I feel way more equipped to handle now than I did when I was a brand new mom.
I just echo all of that. I think you said it perfectly. There's going to be a natural concern because we're their nurturers. We're the ones taking care of them. And that's how we're made. We're built that way, so that our concern leads us to take care of our children, and the Lord meets us there. And I just echo all of that, because having a plan in place will keep you from feeling that complete, like, again, the chicken with your head cut off feeling. Resist the urge to do everything you could do, and just try to calmly get a plan in place and put the plan in place that you are equipped to do. And, you're their mom. Soak up the extra snuggles and just be confident in the fact that you are supporting them instead of suppressing what's going on. And that's going to serve your whole family really, really well.
That's right. Find the positive, find the silver linings, soaking up the extra snuggles. I will say, especially as your baby gets older and they don't want to snuggle as much because they want to be, exploring the world. When they get sick and they just want to cuddle with you, I feel like God's using that to help you slow down and bond with your baby, because those are very precious times when they just want to cuddle on you again. Yeah, that is a good part about them being sick.
The only silver lining,
only
probably.
Good part about that. That, and that if you have children who bounce off the walls like mine, if they're sick and down with a fever, I'm like, oh, this is so peaceful.
I know, but then it's always kind of sad too. Like, Bubba is my one who never stops moving, ever. And when he's down and out, I'm like, and he never complains. So if he doesn't feel good, you're not going to know it unless he is literally just laid out. And it's always sad. I'm always relieved to see him bouncing around again, even though he makes me crazy. But
yeah, I can relate to that very much so. Well, thank you. Thank you for doing this and taking the time to do this. I so appreciate it. When I was thinking about this episode, I was like, you are the perfect person to do this with. Like, because you have all that knowledge in homeopathy that I don't have, that I'm, slowly trying to learn. But I don't ever plan on becoming a homeopath. That's what you're for. So,
but you're doing so much of it already. You really are. I mean, that's what I did for 7 years. And that's still the majority of what I do. I'm just working with my family. I'm taking care of things as mom. That's my full-time job. Thanks for having me and for thinking of me.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. You can reach me at Surrendered Birth Services on Instagram, or email me at contact@surrenderedbirthservices.com. Be sure not to miss an episode by hitting the follow button. Also, we'd love for you to leave a written review of the show so that more people's births and lives can be changed by the love of Jesus and the empowerment of accurate birth education. If you really enjoyed this episode in particular, please take a screenshot of it and post it to your Instagram story, tagging Surrendered Birth Services. If you would like to be a guest on the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, please click the link in the episode show notes to fill out your interest form. Also, if you're interested in taking my childbirth classes, birth consultations, or having me as your birth doula, please click on the link in the show notes to take you to my website for online and in-person options. Just as a reminder, this show is not giving medical advice, so please continue to see your personal care provider as needs arise. We hope you have a great week, and remember, learn all that you can, make the best plans, and then leave it in God's hands.
I wish that I had had something like this when I was a new parent. I think it would have saved me a lot of anxiety.
Gosh, me too. I wish I had just had podcasts when I was a new parent.
That's true.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Those came into play several years later.
That's so funny to think about. The world was different.
It really was.